mate, Geordie Pete Redding. Soccer Saturday is back with Hollywood Balls. This weekend's burning questions. Will Stevie G be the first to cry on his return to Anfield? What's next for Pogba as Ralph's binned him? Who cares? And it's the original North versus South battle on the King's Road this weekend. Welcome to Hollywood Balls, the party with more SVPs than 10 Downing Street. Yep, it's me, Geordie Pete Redding. Today's episode is presented by our partners, Manscaped, the leading men's grooming company around the globe. Time running out as well. The old gift front, make sure you utilise our 20% discount by using Hollywood Balls for manscaped.com. That's your code. Let's have a look at what's coming up on today's show. Okay, welcome to one and all, and a bit of housekeeping first, George, because I've got a way big echo coming back down from your end. I'm not sure if you've got any headphones you can slip on for us.
Can you hear echo now?
Yes, when I speak, I can hear myself back coming, reverberating all the way from Cyprus. Kev, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Pete. I'm good, mate. I'm good.
You got that? You got the not quite yet, but it's you've got the jumper on. Is it cold over there?
Oh, Pete, please don't talk to me about cold. In the summer, I'm cold, Pete. So I'm telling you, it's lively out there. I'm telling you, it's lively, very, very chilly.
Okay, listen, we're going to have a look at Chelsea Leeds today. An emotional return, all joking aside, for Steven Gerrard. He takes his Villa to Anfield. I'm going to have a look at how the AFCON was going to affect the leading teams in the Premier League, because that major tournament is literally just around the corner from us. And of course, you've got Baller of the Week and DK Hot Sauce Challenge. But before we start, I wanted to thank last night's guest on the TFA show. What an absolute legend that he was. We had Alan Robertson on from Stellenbosch FC. Now, we had so many people tuning in from South Africa last night. Thanks to all the guys at Stellenbosch for sharing the show. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And talk about an eye-opener. I asked Alan the question at one point, guys, about Stellenbosch being one of the world's leading and famous clubs, but why they were so young. They were only formed in 2016. And he told me the story is that basically in South Africa, they took over an older club called Vasco da Gama and its franchise management. And so basically what they're saying is that you can go and buy a club in Africa in any division, remove it, rebrand it, and repatriate it to your own club. And that's what Stellenbosch have done. And I have to say, I tend to think I know quite a lot about football, but that was new to me.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. And it was literally Vasco da Gama in the old top division. And Stellenbosch wanted to create their own team for their own area in the Winelands, of course, a fantastic part of South Africa. And that's what they went and did. They are a sister with the rugby. That's why they have such a great setup. The facilities. Yeah. It was a fascinating half an hour with Alan, and we wish all Stellenbosch all the best. They're playing tomorrow. They're away at Maritzburg, 11th, and they need the points to Alan's team. So from all of us at Hollywood Balls and, of course, our TFA family, we wish Stellenbosch all the very best. Fascinating. George, it's a great welcome back to you. Have you been absent due to Conte and the coronavirus and everything at Spurs? Where have you been?
My God, I think it's got to all Spurs fans. I mean, the numbers are crazy. Eight players, 9 coaching staff, and a whole bunch of under-23 players too. Crazy, right?
here we are again, Kev, with this starting to. It's like the last time I remember. They were like, yeah, and people in football don't think that it's the same as the normal world. You're working from home again, people. So there is that spectre of it creeping up again.
Yeah, it's not good, is it? And so many. George is right. The numbers are the scary part. The just the sheer amount of people at the football club. Obviously, Spurs have to take the necessary precautions, get people out of the club, clean it all down, and do whatever. And people have to obviously self-isolate and do what they've got to do. But I'm sure once they do all that and they come back in, I'm sure it's going to be addressed. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of hellos to do. Ronnie's at work, but he's listening. Ashuri's there as well. She's working, but still watching. Great to know. Ashuri, don't forget, get that festive shopping done for Ronnie and let me know when you've done it. Can't wait for that, by the way.
The one thing I think about, though, is imagine if there were one or two more Premier League clubs that had a similar outbreak.
Leicester.
That could risk the whole season, couldn't it? Because of the scheduling challenges.
Yeah, look, it's... I don't know where it stands at. I mean, there was a discussion, even, George, that you took place in on Twitter. Some people were saying, "Oh, Spurs looking to get their game," but it's right. If there's a certain amount of people with that, then it's right that it should be a precaution. I think there are a few teams that aren't that far behind.
But what's the cut-off point, Pete? That's the problem.
Exactly. Kev.
Because it's so new. It's so new and prominent that nobody knows the cut-off point. Because take into consideration the first game of the season Arsenal played. Yeah. Arsenal had Lacazette and Aubameyang out with COVID, and obviously had to put two younger players in. Yeah, that they wasn't given that courtesy. So I don't know what the cutoff is. Is it 1, 2, 3, 10? I have no idea. So they have to make that clear, don't they? That's the key.
Let's see what happens.
I think for the first game against Brentford, Arsenal had 4 players out with COVID. 4, and they played the game. So what's the cutoff?
Where's the cutoff? Anyone knows? Let us know. Andy Briggs is down under. Great to have him, my former schoolmate. Well, it seems like a lifetime ago, probably because it is. He thinks that Newcastle, fingers crossed for at least a draw. We'll get to that later, Andy, because I know you're in the mix for the DK Hot Sauce Challenge. But Kevin and I have been talking about that off air as well. Thomason's in as well. He says that TFA should club together and buy their own club and put them in the African League. Do you not think George and Steve have got enough on? Good stuff. Okay, some huge games this weekend, as we've already alluded to. Kev, I wanted to touch on Arsenal with you. Speaking of social media, another normal week at the Arsenal when things don't go to plan. All the doubters come out in force again, don't they?
Oh, without a
Lee
shadow
Judges,
of a doubt.
I'm not mentioning you at all.
No, you can mention Lee Judges. He is not unhappy, but look, just like any fan base, when the team's losing or you've lost
massively,
or you've lost 3 games out of the last 4, the punters are not going to be happy because they saw a bit of progress, Pete, and they want it to continue, and they really want it to push on. And it didn't quite work out that way. The team looked like it's taken a few steps back, which is anything to trigger this Arsenal fan base. But we're still not in a bad position. And it's Southampton this weekend. So, got to get back on winning ways, Pete. Got to.
Bittersweet for you because obviously it meant a result for another of your former clubs, Everton. Ryan's just touched on that. Ryan, how are you, mate? It's lovely to have you along from RLG Trading.
Pete, Everton deserved it. Let's be honest. Everton deserved it. Everton put Arsenal under immense pressure. Richarlison should have been going on with the match ball under his arm, if we're honest.
That's quite honest, isn't that quite an often occurrence, though, with him? In and out.
Well, Pete, look, at the end of the day, they've had 2 goals chalked off. Yeah. He still keeps going and he gets the equaliser. And let's be honest, that winner by Demarai Gray was good enough to win any game of football, wasn't it? It was an incredible goal.
I'm really happy for Damari as well.
Yeah, he's been an incredible signing at 1.5 million. I mean, it's a giveaway, isn't it? It's a gimme. But
And he's been getting a bit of stick as well from the old Gladys Street faithful, but I do like him as a player.
well, I think they rate him, Pete. They really rate him, and it's just like anything, Pete. If you're doing well and then your levels drop, people want you to do better because they know you got it. If you haven't got it, then they don't have your expectation.
George is in and out like Newcastle.
And shake it all about. He's doing a yoki koki. He could turn around. It's not Christmas yet, George.
I'm going to give him the Hollywood Balls manual of how to check in 5 minutes before the show starts. God bless him. Okay, Kev, while we've got you, let's look at today's early game. City and Wolves. On paper, a straightforward game for City. But what I have noticed, and whisper it quietly, is that it's 5 games or so without them keeping what's a regulation clean sheet. They're not having problems, but those clean sheets are starting to become a thing of the past.
Yeah, look, the key for the Man City side is to win. That's the key. Get the 3 points.
Yeah.
If you can do it with a clean sheet, great. But if you can't, just win the game. Because these things, I think the second half of the season is where you're going to see them really tighten the screw and stop teams. I think now, usually they're quite slow starters, but they've started at a good pace this season. So still very dangerous side, Pete. And Pep wants it perfect, doesn't he? He wants clean sheets and he wants them to score 5 goals. That's just the way he is. So I think City are going to be more than all right in this one.
It's funny, I was talking to a friend of mine and he was putting together what I consider to be a wonderful Christmas gift for his father. He's basically looking at all of the football documentaries that are out, from the last few years, the likes of Manchester City, Spurs, and Brian Clough, and he's putting them all on a stick to send them to the UK for his father. And we were talking about one in particular, and it was the Manchester City one, where they go behind the scenes. And I was telling him that it was amazing that Pep, they just won 5-0 and he came in at the 90th minute and he was blasting all the players. Yeah. He's never happy. Even when they go 2 up, Kev, on that touchline, he's jumping up and down going mad, isn't he?
Because do you know why, Pete? There's standards that are set at that football club. And God, you better not fall below them standards. And it's easier to fall below the standards when you're winning easy.
Yeah.
People get lackadaisical and stuff like that. We're winning, we're 5-0 up. I remember George Graham. I think we whacked Sheffield United at home 5-2 or something like that. He came and he was throwing teacups. He was going ballistic. But that's the levels and the, that's the values that he has for the players. Stick to your levels of performance. It's really important, Pete.
George, Thomas Tuchel's come out this week and said that's the problem at Chelsea, that that they've got a bit comfortable.
Well, it's interesting. Chelsea had a great defence record, right? Didn't concede hardly any goals. 2 games they conceded 6 goals, right?
Yeah.
That's why George Graham went nuts at Kevin and the guys against Sheffield Wednesday back in the day. They conceded 2 goals and they should have done. I remember that game. Shows my age, right? Yeah. But these guys are relentless perfectionists. Tuchel is going nuts at Chelsea now. 6 goals in 2 games. That's way below standard for Chelsea. And I will tell you, I always thought Chelsea would win the Premier League. Now I'm not so sure. It's one of the top 3, but TT is driven and he's upset, right?
Yeah, he had a right goal. What I liked about it was post-match. It was presser, and it was he said, look, the players have to look at themselves. They have to answer themselves the question. Yeah. And again, it's another factor in why I like him. Staying with Chelsea Leeds, Kev, be fun down the old King's Road today.
Well, it's a 6 helicopter job, this one, isn't it? It's a 6 helicopter job. I mean, look, this is one of them games that Leeds coming back into the Premier League. Obviously, last season there was no fans. These are the spicy games. These ones, the team from up north, like Leeds, back in the day, the rivalry was incredible. Now they get to lock horns again at Stamford Bridge. It's gonna be a cracker on and off the pitch, I tell you.
Georgia, I mean, when you look at that, it's the original blue versus white, north versus south. Absolutely incredible atmosphere in store.
Great game.
Great fixtures.
Yeah, for those of us that benefit from many decades on this planet, I remember the Chelsea Leeds FA Cup game when David Webb scored the winner. I mean, the rivalry is massive. It's a massive game. And as Kevin says, it'll be tasty off the pitch as well as on the pitch.
Michael's asking if he could hear a cat in the room. No, you couldn't. That was just a Chelsea squealing as they're coming down the King's Road. Apologies for that. Tony Manuel's in the house from the Philippines. War Tony. He'll be looking forward to tomorrow's game as well. Tony, how are you? Good to have you on board. Okay, so what I wanted to do was speak about Chelsea and Leeds because I'm so... it just conjures up so many memories for all, and it's going to be such a good game. Someone who I did task with talking about it and memories of this game is our very own Stato.
Hello there, it's Geordie Stato Dave Huggan from Sydney, Australia, and I want to talk about Chelsea versus Leeds today, a great rivalry dating back to the 60s and 70s with the likes of Norman Bitey Legs Hunter and Ron Chopper Harris. In the 1970 FA Cup final, Chelsea eventually won 2-1 in a replay against Leeds, and it was one of the most violent games ever as far as fouls are concerned. In 1997, David Ellery, the referee at the time, was reviewing the game and said he would give 6 red cards. Michael Oliver did the same thing this year and said he would have given 11 red cards for the challenges that went in. Well, it's still a rivalry that exists today. Always a great game. It just sounds good, doesn't it? Chelsea versus Leeds. Chelsea, much the better team this time around. So let's see what happens. Back to Pete.
And back to brass tacks with the lineups. Leeds are going to struggle today because they've got a couple of linchpins out. It's looking like Phillips is out, Kev, and they're struggling with injuries. Everything that they built last season. And then you look, it's the polar opposite this season for them, isn't it?
Do you know what, Pete? It's a difficult one because Calvin Phillips has played a lot of football. You know, a lot of these guys who played in the Euros, you could see them, they're starting to suffer. I think probably the only player who hasn't really suffered is Declan Rice at West Ham. I think he's had an unbelievable season. Yeah. But Calvin Phillips has come back. He's had a little niggle here, and he's out. I think he's done his hamstring this time. And you never mess with hamstrings. You got to make sure they're right. So he's a key player for Leeds, and this looks like, this pushes even more so the favouritism even more to Chelsea.
Yeah. It's going to be difficult for Leeds. It's going to be difficult for Leeds today. Hey, has Stato lost weight? It looks like he's on a diet. No.
Who's that?
Stato. Has he lost weight?
I don't know. He's probably just getting ready to go out, or he's just jumped out the shower. He's down under as well, isn't he? It's probably all the worry of Newcastle. It's getting to it.
Yeah. He'll put weight on again.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to mention that. I was going to, for the first time, George, this morning, I thought I was going to have just put myself an hour aside, wake up, because obviously we're in the UAE, so we can watch it early doors. But it's finished. It's done.
It's all over.
They lost by 9 wickets. It's all over. Yeah, it's all over. I tell you where it's not all over today. It's going to be an emotional one. Is at Anfield. Steven Gerrard. And I know it's not. He can't drive the media, but literally from last week. Every day it's about Gerrard's journey back to Anfield. Kev, surely Stevie G will just want to get out, get on the pitch and get the game underway, won't he?
Yeah, he will. But look, it's part and parcel of what comes with being a legend at that football club. He's obviously went up to Rangers. He's come back. He's doing a decent job, really decent job at Aston Villa. And now it's his charges who are taking on the club he loves. So, he supported Liverpool as a boy, but as he said, the sentiments aside, he's going to want to go there and make them get a good performance, but win the game. You know why, Pete? Because he's a future Liverpool manager. Let's be honest. He is
Klopp
a future
said that
Liverpool
this week.
manager. Yeah, he is a future Liverpool manager, but you know what? it might be a bit spicy on the touchline because I know that Klopp, he's going to want to make sure he puts Steven Gerrard in his place, that's for sure.
And again, that talk, George, about will Gerrard celebrate? Of course he'll celebrate. Why wouldn't he?
Of course he has to.
Should he celebrate? Should he not? All of that. I can't stand all that.
Listen, he has to celebrate that. He owes that to his players. He owes that to the fans. Villa is a massive club. It'll be a great game. I think there'll be cans on both Gerrard and Klopp, and that'll be more entertaining than the game, I bet you.
Manager Cam.
Yeah,
Gaffer
definitely.
Cam. I want to give a warm welcome to Beatrix Love, who's watching the show, possibly for the first time, I don't know. Beatrix, just to explain that, you've got your first code. The second will come out along shortly, and then the third one just before the end, and then you and all your pals can go off and earn those points. That's how it works. Thanks for joining us. Just clear that up there because it is. We're getting new people along all the time, George, joining in, and so it's good to know. Okay, but Kev, again, I was looking at this top of the top of the Premier League and Liverpool and City and Chelsea, and it's like that. They're jostling for position at the moment, and everyone will want to come right. But this Christmas period is such a busy time for all clubs, but it's key, isn't it?
It is key, Pete, because there's a lot of games back to back. It's a big demands on the players as well. So getting off to the right start, I think, is going to be really important because you know what? It's this time of the year that actually can change your season.
Yep.
Teams that ain't doing so well, you win a few games, and then all of a sudden, the new year looks bright. You're going into the FA Cup game, and you're thinking, listen, we have a good second half of the season, we're all right. But it could also do the opposite for a lot of teams. Teams who have done okay, you lose a couple of back-to-back games, and then you find yourself moving down that league. So, whatever happens, you want to have a good Christmas, New Year period.
One club a manager doesn't make, but it's stacked in the favour of Gerrard. And I wanted to ask both of you. George, I'll start with you because the opinion is that he's going to be a great manager, which, of course, everyone's entitled to their opinion. He started off very well, but I think that this is a massive test, not just because it's in the Premier League, but he's with a club that is a big club historically, but it's a real test for him, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. Steven Gerrard has outperformed my expectations already. But if you listen to what he did at Rangers and how he's going about his job at Villa, I read a very good interview, and he's a very modern manager that has learned a lot from all his past managers. And he's got one particular member of his staff that seems to do the trick. And I think psychologically, his players benefit from that. I think he's a great manager in the making. It's too early to say he's a great manager now. He's only been in it for 5 minutes, but I've changed my opinion. I think he could be a great manager. And like Kev says, it's a question of time before he goes to Liverpool.
Kev, you'll be hoping that he goes and has a good result today.
Oh, without a shot. Come on, Stevie. Come on, Villa. Up the Villa. Let's have a great one. Listen, at the end of the day, Pete, we know this Villa side. This Villa side are capable. And you know, Villa's record at Anfield isn't too bad, They've won there a few times. So wouldn't it just be incredible headlines that Steven Gerrard for the first time goes back to Anfield and gets a win there? It will be incredible. But
Kev's painting the headlines already.
But as I said, Jurgen Klopp and this Liverpool team, with City being the way they are, they can't afford to drop points. They can't afford to. So it's going to be a really interesting game.
Fascinating. And you said as well, among all these fixtures coming over the Christmas period, there's the small matter of the FA Cup, third round draw last week. Were you, gents, happy with your respective draws for your teams?
Yeah, very happy. Finally, we've got a decent draw. Very happy. There are a couple of zingers though. All Premier League ties already.
West Ham as well. Yeah. And for the first time in about 2,500 years, Newcastle aren't away at Old Trafford or at Arsenal. They've got a home tie in the third round.
Pete, that's the next round.
possibly. Okay, brilliant stuff. Listen, I wanted to chat. Speaking with January in mind, it's nearly time for one of my favourite tournaments. It's the African Nations, and
Yeah.
whilst us as fans and all of our TFA viewers as well, George, love it. Of course we do. It's a right pain in the old backside for the managers domestically. With the time that it comes along. So I've been doing a little bit of research this week to have a look at our Premier League teams. It's quite surprising, the lineup of who it affects most, with key players being away, so to speak. And the team that it affects the least is yours, George, Spurs.
Yeah, the Spurs don't have one player at AFCON this year.
Wow.
If you're a Liverpool fan, you're nervous. Mane,
Yes.
and of course Mo Salah. Right, when you're out there competing with Chelsea and City, you don't want that. City only have one player going, and that's Mahrez, right? Chelsea have got
Keita in there as well for Liverpool.
Chelsea have just got two players, but the key one there is the goalie, Mendy, right?
Yeah. Watford have got 5 going.
Yeah, I know, and they're fighting for their lives. Arsenal have got 4. You know,
Leicester
it's. I'll tell you, Palace have got 4, and they're all good players. Zaha.
Zaha's the main man there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to have an impact. It's interesting. I just wonder how many recruiters at these big clubs say, is it worth having an AFCON player? You know, if he's brilliant, like Salah and Mane, no issue. But if he's, a squad player or, let's say, an average player, I wonder how much of a factor that is, whether you should buy him or not.
Interesting. There's all sorts. Again, it's. I was saying to Kev this week on the phone, we were having a chat, and Newcastle have been linked with about 300 million players. The latest is
everyone
Dembele from Barcelona. Currently, what I would say is that you don't. All respect to Dembele, that's not the sort of player that you want or need currently. You want someone to challenge and dig hard out of this fight that Newcastle are in. It's going to be interesting. George, have you got a sort of a fancy for anyone in the African nations, or a couple of players to look out for?
I've got a feeling Ivory Coast will do better than most people think.
Yeah.
It's time for Nigeria to step up again, I think, right? So
sure.
Those are the 2 I've got my eyes on. But I think Ivory Coast will surprise people this year. They've got some key players that have good camaraderie, that's a good nucleus. So it'd be great if they win it. I don't think they will, but yeah, I think Ivory Coast is one to watch.
Kev, were you talking about, obviously George mentioned it, but Liverpool will suffer with Salah, who for me is the best player in the world, but Mane and goals. But there's a young man, again, who's come back into the limelight. He gets some important goals, does our Origi, doesn't he?
Yeah. And have you noticed he's starting to get some more minutes now? He started in the Champions League the other day. He came on against Wolves. He got the winner. So Jurgen Klopp's smart. He's making sure, I'm just going to start easing this guy in so he's at full speed. So when the guys go, he's ready to take the mantle. And don't forget, Liverpool squad isn't as weak as we thought it would be. They have got some good players who can step up. So Liverpool are going to be there or thereabouts. Why? Because they don't give a lot of goals away at the back. When you don't give a lot of goals away, you're always in these games.
George, there's a game that takes place this weekend, which is a fascinating game. And it's just a sort of a reality check for Mr. Vieira, as Palace, they pulled up so many trees early on in the season, looking great. They're just having that little bit of stutter, and Everton come off the back of a good win. That's going to be a fascinating game between Vieira and Rafa.
That will be one of the best games of the weekend, just because of the reasons you said. Vieira has done a very good job. All of a sudden, goals are hard to come by for Palace. Everton got a great result against Arsenal last week, so they've got momentum now. listen, Vieira, I think too, is doing a very good job and will be a very good manager in the Premier League. But he's in a sticky patch now, and this is the type of game that Palace need to get something out of. If Palace lose, for example, then I think you'll see confidence being challenged, and it could be shattered even.
Kev, there's a conundrum at Palace for me because I love watching him play, but it's similar scenario to Joe Linton, is that he's in the team to get goals. Benteke, he's any manager's conundrum, apart from when he plays against Newcastle, and he was Pele, of course. But it's such a difficult one because the guy he does so much hard work, but this business of putting the ball in the back of the net's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you look at Crystal Palace and Benteke in particular, they need him. They need his work ethic. They need him to do so many things, Pete. Yeah. That if Zaha gets the goals or AU or whoever gets the goals, I think they don't mind Benteke's goal output coming down if he can be that all-round striker, because he's a handful, Pete. He really is a handful.
Oh, he is,
in the air, on the ground. He puts himself in tough positions against big centre halves. That he's the battering ram for Crystal Palace. The key is, can they score enough goals that the teams then forget about Benteke and then have to worry about all the others, so Benteke could start scoring? Because if they get Benteke scoring, Pete, then Crystal Palace are going to be more than all right. Yeah. They're going to be more than all right. If he gets double figures, they'll be fine this season.
Yeah.
Another Super Sunday fixture is my lot. Newcastle go to Leicester, but they're going off the back of a great win and a clean sheet, and they'll fancy goals, Kev and George. They'll fancy goals. Leicester are struggling to keep clean sheets. I was just saying to Kev before we started, gobsmacked that in the league the last time Leicester kept a clean sheet was against Wolves on the opening day of the season. Fascinating start that.
Yeah, it's. I think Brendan Rodgers has a challenge there. It seems to have unwound in the last 4 to 6 weeks. I don't know what the cause of it is. Maybe Brendan Rodgers was tapped for the Newcastle job and that unsettled him. You never know. You just never know, right? But there are issues at Leicester now. They need to get back on track. And they seem to be challenges. I don't know why.
George, we spoke about it earlier. Pete, we spoke about it earlier, about the levels and the standards that get set. Yeah. This Leicester side at the moment, the squad has dropped below them standards. And I could guarantee you this, whether Brendan Rodgers got tapped or not, he would be pulling his hair out, because those standards are what kept them in that top four for a couple of seasons until kind of the last week. They won the FA Cup. They've got really good players. They're a good squad, but they've really dropped below them standards. So they've got to pick it up.
Being a very interesting game, and again, listening to Paul Merson, Kev Merson was saying that Newcastle, again, it's one of those games that maybe 3-4 weeks ago they wouldn't have expected anything. They've got to go and play as though they're playing for the win, because that's when they might just get something. Sitting back's no option, really.
No, it's not an option. Pete, I'm going to say this to him blue in the face. If you can get good ball to St. Maximum and Callum Wilson and the front boys, good service to them, of course Newcastle could win the game. But it's always going to boil down to, can you keep the opposition out? Because you know what? This is one thing about Leicester. They will concede goals, but you know what? They don't mind trying to outscore you. Yeah. In the end.
We could need more bulbs in the scoreboard on Sunday. There's going to be goals galore. Listen, I wanted to mention a player that it's last week, George. It struck me that he doesn't get the sort of the coverage that many players in the Premier League do. And what a season he's had at West Ham. It's Gerrard Bowen, who runs himself into the ground every 90 minutes. When he comes off as a sub or at the end, he's absolutely shattered. He gives his all, normally a goal in there as well. what an absolutely fantastic individual season he's having.
He's had a great season, and make no mistake, is a very, very important player for West Ham. You know, his name's always on the first team sheet, right?
Yeah.
Moyes has got him playing really well. As well as having very good ability, his fitness levels and his physicality is something people don't realise. So he's a fit lad, very, very good on the ball, and he's got a very good eye. So I think that was a great. But they bought him from Hull, if I'm not mistaken.
They did,
right?
yeah. 22 million, and people raised their eyebrows.
I mean, that looks like an unbelievably fantastic buy now, doesn't it? Right? He's on top of his game. He's still learning the game. I think the lad's got a bright future, but he's doing very well. Very well.
Pete, and wasn't he being? I think he was being linked. I think Jurgen Klopp really likes him.
Yeah.
And he was being linked with potentially Liverpool looking at him.
That's right.
You know, and that would say, that's testimony to the season he's had. You know, I think he's been superb. And you know what? He chases things down. That penalty that he won last week against Chelsea when he caught Mendy out. Listen, that is really good forward play. Really good forward play. That
and he scored a good goal too, right?
Excellent goal. Excellent goal.
Listen, he's a key player for West Ham, and he's one of the reasons why West Ham are doing so well this season.
Yeah,
and him and his agent can contact us all and thank us for just putting 10 mil on his price. Just send the check through to Hollywood Balls. We'll take it. Listen, another special mention I've got to give for a guest that's recently been on is for South Shields. They play today, yes, and they're opening their new stand, which will eventually give them another 900 in that ground. It's open for 700 today, so we wish all the boys well. 3,500 expected today for South Shields.
Fantastic.
Absolutely phenomenal crowd.
Fantastic.
They play Hyde United today, and if they win and the results go for them, South Shields will go top. So we will all be rooting for Jeff. Good
Brilliant
stuff. Okay, notes for the diaries. Kev, yours is in, I know. George, I've had to speak to you because you've been busy this week. Next week, a week today, is the Hollywood Balls Christmas party. Same time as it always is. Christmas attire to get in through the doors. We're going to be hosted. The menu is can't believe I'm doing this. It's devised by Galton Blackiston, our favourite. He'll be doing proceedings from the kitchen. We've got an all-star celebrity lineup. Jokes and gags, Christmas cracker jokes will be coming from Alexandra Haddo, who's rejoining us this next Saturday.
Oh, is she? Oh, she's rearing her head, is she?
Yeah, she's back on the circuit. We've got a special appearance from Manchester. Carlton Palmer's going to be in the house with his Christmas jumper on as well.
Love it.
And many more surprises along the way. George, you need to find a Christmas jumper and send the RSVP for
Pete, I don't do Christmas jumpers. Let me tell you.
Christmas hats.
I do not possess none of them. None of it.
Okay.
And I won't wear it.
There we go. Bob Cratchit, he could knock it on your door.
Yeah, get him round, I tell you, no problem.
So we will see you all next week for the Christmas show. Can't wait for that. It's going to be a lot of fun, and there will be more guests than normal in the Hollywood Balls house. Let's just say that. George asked me the question, how am I going to control it? The honest truth is I have no idea. We'll work that out as it happens around us. Okay. As I say, it's a welcome back this week to George. So we'll start with him. Baller of the week, sir.
I'm going to give it to an Aston Villa player. They've been fantastic. I think John McGinn has been outstanding. He's the epitome of everything that's great about Aston Villa. He was great last week in their victory against Leicester. Yeah, I'm giving it to John McGinn.
Okay, just to nip in, I'm giving mine to Amanda. KC in a Christmas jumper has to be done. Guna, there she is.
Well, you know,
she's on the case.
It's never going to happen. So I'm just
the messenger. Kev, baller of the week.
Baller of the week is I'm going into the Champions League, and I saw the game. Killing Mbappe for PSG,
Yeah.
him and Messi were unbelievable. Killing Mbappe scored 2, he set 1 up. He was incredible. He's still so young. He's a baby, and he's he's so dangerous. So, yeah, I'll give it to Killing Mbappe, Pete.
Great stuff. Fantastic. Okay. Can't
Pete,
believe it.
What was the results last? Come on, let's hear it. The results last week.
Well, put it this way, Kev. I'm going to be on to Danny Kwang for my hot sauce because I won.
Get out! The first one, you broke your duck, Pete.
5 points for Geordie Pete.
Well done, Pete. Well done.
It was, and I've watched it back. I was going to play it where everybody laughed when I took Hartlepool to win, and it was Hartlepool that won.
You got it 1-0. You got
Adrian
it 1-0.
Bevington. Thank you to you and the boys at Hartlepool for the 1-0 win. Great for them, by the way. What a fantastic victory for the boys and Jeff Stelling's team as well. So it's on to this week. We've put a couple of... There's some great games around the globe, which we've reflected. In the house this week is Danny Kwang, Samantha, Andy Briggs down under. Is with us as well. Darren DeCendry, Lee Cosgrove from Manchester, and the one and only Scotty Shepherd, making up the husband and wife team that is Scotty and Samantha. They'll be starting their own DK hot sauce factory off because they win every other week. Okay, first up, Kev, Chelsea Leeds.
I'm going for Chelsea 3, Leeds 1.
Okay.
No, 3-0. Sorry, 3-0.
Okay,
I got Villa 3-1. Sorry.
I've gone Chelsea 5, Leeds 0.
Brilliant. Pop, stay out of North Yorkshire for this weekend, George. You'll not be popular. I've gone 3-1 to Chelsea. Danny's gone 3-0 Chelsea. Samantha's taken 2-0 to Chelsea. 4-2 for Andy Briggs, Chelsea. 3-0 as well for Darren to Chelsea. Lee Cosgrove's gone 2-0 and Scotty has gone 3-0, both for Chelsea. Okay, Liverpool Villa.
3-1 I've got, Pete. 3-1 to Liverpool.
George?
Yeah.
I've got the same, 3-1 to Liverpool.
Okay, I've gone clean sheet for Liverpool. 3-0 to Liverpool for me. Danny's the same, 3-0. Samantha's got 2s apiece. Andy Briggs has gone 3-1 Liverpool. Darren's gone 3-1 Liverpool. Lee's gone 3-2 Liverpool. And Scotty's gone 3-0 Liverpool. Leicester, Newcastle.
Pete, I've got 2-1 to Foxes.
Okay, good stuff. I think there'll be goals, but I think it'll be a close game as well. George, what you got for us?
I've gone for a 2-2 draw.
Okay, you've gone for a Desmond. I've got 1-1. I've got point for the tune. Danny Kwang's gone 3-1 Leicester. Samantha's got 3-0 Leicester. Andy Briggs has got a 1-1 draw, same as me. Darren's gone 2-0 Leicester. 3-1 Leicester for Lee Cosgrove. And Scotty Shepherd has gone 2-1 to Newcastle United. I've always liked that lad. Okay, moving into Spain, we've got a massive game: Real Madrid and Atletico.
Oh, Madrid derby, and you know I'm a big Madrid fan. I'm gonna go 2-1 Real Madrid in this one, Pete.
Okay,
2-1 to Real Madrid, pal.
I think Atletico Madrid, they're going to get something from this game. I think it's a huge game. I think it's going to be 1-1 draw.
Okay, I've got 2-1 to Real Madrid. Danny Kwang has the same, as does Samantha. Andy Briggs has got a 1-1 draw. 3-1 to Real for Darren Duncan. Darren's gone 3-1. 2-1 for Lee Cosgrove to Real Madrid. And Scotty's got a 1-1 draw. Rounding us off for the weekend, over to France. Paris Saint-Germain, Monaco.
Big game, obviously, Pete. And it's in Paris. So they've got to win. This is a got-to-win game, must-win game. And I think Messi and Mbappe are going to be the difference. I'm going to go 2-0 PSG. Okay,
George?
3-1 PSG.
Exactly the same as me. 2-2 for Danny Kwang. Samantha's gone 2-0 PSG, as has Andy Briggs. 3-2 to PSG for Darren. Lee Cosgrove's got 3-0 to PSG, as has Scotty Shepherd. Keep your eyes on that one. As Newcastle are, I'm coming into form just at the right time of the season.
Christmas form.
Just guaranteed myself 0 points this weekend now. Fantastic. George, we hope that the boy is okay. It was a shame that you missed us last night and all the boys from Stellenbosch. No, but it was fascinating. Tell us, what have you got planned for the weekend apart from keeping a watchful eye on your brood?
Yeah, I've got a couple of follow-ups. A couple of my fellow team members had some important meetings today, which I couldn't attend because I'm doing this show, so I've got to follow up on that. Working, football, kids, and trying to make it all up to the missus. I don't know how she puts up with me.
We don't. I think we get her on we'll have a surprise. We'll have her on the Christmas show for you.
Hey, get her some hot sauce, because I don't know where mine's gone. Where's my hot sauce, Pete?
Points make sauce, Kev. You know the rules.
Oi, don't you start. Just you won 1 week.
Kev, what's on your agenda? What have you got?
Pete, I am all over the country this weekend.
Brilliant.
Believe you me, I'm all over the country. Once I get off here, I'm on the move again. And
Sure.
tomorrow, obviously, there's the Palace Everton game, etc. So I'm doing all sorts of things, but I'm going to be busy but happy, Pete. That's one thing. I'm going to be very happy, and I'll be in touch with you too.
Oh yeah, sure. Listen, Thomason's in before I knock off. Thomason, message me on the TFA app or message me on here. We will sort your Manscaped issue out for you. We know that you're ordering the whatever it is you're ordering. But if there's any way we can help,
The
just let
lawnmower.
us know.
No. Fine, help anyone with that.
George is on its way. Kev's ordered it for you. Okay, listen, we will see you bright and early. Bring your tickets for next week's party. We'll be announcing guests through the week, by the way, both on all of our channels. So follow me on Instagram as well to keep up to date of who's joining. Hopefully, we've got a couple of extra celebrity names which will be in the Hollywood Balls house. That's it from me, Geordie Pete Redding, him, Super Kevin Campbell, and him, TFA George. See you next Saturday.